Today we're in Jakarta, the world's fastest sinking city.
This problem is causing the whole city to sink.
Even this seawall is actually sinking.
We are on a fishing boat.
We're going to explore this city and find out exactly what's going on here.
We're going to go look at some of the government accommodation right now.
About 40% of North Jakarta is located below sea level.
As well as speak to some locals and find out what they think about their city going under. I've been getting the same response from many of the residents in this area. But this is not just a story about a city in crisis.
There are actually chemicals in the water. It's obviously a really large problem here in the city.
It is also a story of hope and community. Is it too late to save Jakarta? Let's go find out.
Aye, sailor, where are we off to?
Jakarta is the current capital of Indonesia and is located on the island of Java. Since the independence of Indonesia in 1945, the population has increased from 1 million to now 12 million people. Jakarta is divided between the rich and poor, which is a division that's stemming back to the Dutch colonization.
We have just arrived along the northern coast of Jakarta, and behind me is a massive seawall, and this is to protect the area from floods and storm surges.
This area here is actually located below sea level. So at the moment, what's separating this area from being flooded is simply a concrete wall that's about 3-4 meters tall. And if you look closer, you can see there's all sorts of cracks in the wall, and you can also see there's in fact a lot of water seeping in. These areas around here, they actually sink by approximately 25 centimeters a year. So even this seawall is actually sinking. So this is clearly not a long-term solution.
For a structure so important to keep these coastal neighborhoods safe from flooding, it is crazy the amount of cracks this wall has, and you can just see the wear and tear.
On the other side of this wall here, there is a flooded mosque. There's really only just the structure left. Last time that was actually used for praying, that was in 2001. So it's obviously just been damaged and wearing down from all the multiple storm surges that's been there over the years. This area where we're standing has been sinking approximately 3 to 4 meters since the 1990s. So pretty fascinating to see how land subsidence has caused water to consume this mosque.
The area along the seawall was actually guarded, and the guard was very hesitant to allow us access. No doubt, the land subsidence is a politically sensitive topic. And while driving around the neighbourhood and seeing with our own eyes area after area being affected by intrusion of seawater, it became clear how large a problem the land subsidence combined with sea level rise and increased storm surges actually is. We are currently in Muara Baru, a neighbourhood in the northern part of Jakarta city that is actually under sea level. Many of the residents in the northern part of the city don't actually have access to clean water and are actually forced to buy water from local vendors. You can see these canisters behind me actually get delivered to the residents around the city on a daily basis.
We're just walking past the local fish market. Apparently it gets very busy here in the morning. This area here actually relies a lot on fishing. That's why there's a lot of people living in this area, so they have access to the harbors for going fishing. But that also means they are at risk basically every day of flooding in this area, especially during storm surges and high tides. A lot of these areas just won't be here in the years to come. So the fishermen living in this area will lose their livelihood in the future because of the land subsidence.
How many times would this get flooded?
He said to me, every year there is always big flooded around this area. Oh, about 2 meters high of flooded every rainy season.
As a homeless person, can you ask him, what does that mean? Like when it floods, where does he go? What does he do? How does he survive the flooding?
Okay. He said to me, if there was a flooded, they had to move to a different area, the center part, to the mosque, to the building, high building. And then the government sometimes provide them food, their daily food to consume to survive.
Okay. Is he scared of living here? Is he worried about the wall? Is he worried about the storm surges and what's going to happen in the future?
Actually, he has no fear to living here because they consider that is their destiny. Born and die here. That is his motto.
Iksan, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing your story with us today.
This spot here really showcases how Muara Baru is located below sea level. You can see the water on one side, and then you have this little wall here separating the water from overflowing this entire area, which is actually below the water height at the moment. High tide tonight will be 60 centimeters above the current level. So you can just picture the water levels rising an extra 60 centimeters, which will get pretty close to the edge of that wall. So not much separating these areas and the streets behind me from completely getting flooded.
About 40% of Jakarta's population does not have access to clean water, therefore they aren't connected to pipelines. They have to rely on buying water from local vendors or relying on rainwater. Many people are actually doing illegal pumping of water because it's just too expensive to buy it.
And that's the root problem here, because it forces people to dig wells and to pump groundwater, and that's causing the land subsidence in this area.
You can see these massive water storage tanks here. So this is actually used for drinking water and also for bathing.
These houses behind me are actually built on stilts because of the sea level rise.
Our guide just told us that these houses have actually been raised multiple times because of the subsidence of this area and the sea level rise. So it won't be many years before they have to raise these houses on the stilts even further, considering this area is sinking approximately 20 to 25 centimeters every year.
Learning about what millions of people have to do to get clean water is just making me feel so privileged that I can access it whenever I would like. It really makes me sad because millions of people almost have to fight for water every single day. Yeah, it's a lot to process right now. I would like to ask how many times the house has had to be raised due to sea level rise.
Oh yeah, okay. Setahun sekali. Setahun, okay. By they built the dam, so today it is less flooded here. So before the dam was provided by government, the flood can be until your knee here, like that.
Is he afraid of what might happen because of sea level rise and floods?
Oke, kira-kira dengan mengalami seperti itu ada rasa takut nggak hidup tinggal di sini gitu Pak RT? There is the place where they born, that is the destiny. Especially after they provided the dam, they're not so afraid anymore.
So how would you feel about having to move in case of flooding?
He has no plan to move from this area.
What is life like living in this community?
Oh, kita di sini sudah macam kayak sekeluargaan. Jadi kita bersatu intinya, nggak ada untuk ini.
Oh yeah.
Gotong royong.
So they feel like family all together. They help one each other. Something problem with them, so they had to facing together.
Okay. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Here's actually fresh water that they're using to clean bowls and plates, and they actually had to buy this water. So 20 liters of water is actually 10,000 rupiah.
He took the water from government, about 400,000 rupiah for 8 tons. For temporary storage here, and then reselling to the people who live around this area. That is her business, fresh water.
And how long has she been doing this for?
Starting the business from 2010.
But what happens if the government forces people to move because it's all flooded here?
Karena ditanggul kan aklamasi.
Oh yeah. For temporary, if there is a flood, they had to move another higher place for temporary. After that, coming back here, because this is the place where they're running the business. So he had no plan to move from this area.
It seems like many people here do not want to leave because they are obviously so attached to where they grew up and where they were brought up.
Iritlah air susah, efficient with the fresh water.
Okay.
Fresh water is very difficult to have. That is the meaning.
There are actually some signs on buildings reminding people to save water. So this is just a constant reminder for the people that water is scarce and it is a precious resource that they must conserve. Seeing this all today and learning about this makes me not want to take water for granted. I never knew how precious water actually is here.
We're just told by these workers here that each time they renovate or build a new house here, they make it higher and higher to avoid the houses here from sinking and being flooded. I'm just asking if their shop here has actually been flooded in the past.
Yeah, on 2002 there was a flood here.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
but-
how high did the water go?
Similar with this floor.
Okay.
Yeah.
So years back in 2002, apparently this shop was flooded. And you can see how they actually built a little bit of a safety barrier here just in case.
Hello. We're from Australia.
Australia.
Yeah. So you live here?
Yes, here.
Yeah. How long have you lived here for?
9 years.
9 years living here. And your whole family lives here?
With my family husband.
Ah, okay. So are you worried that you'll have to move one day?
Sometimes.
Yeah?
Sometimes, but I'm here lah with the husband.
You're here with your husband?
Yeah. I
And
must follow him.
yeah. Thank you so much.
Yes, yeah.
It was really nice to meet you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was just mentioning to the lady that we're making this video really just to educate about what is happening in this area here, just so that people can understand what others are going through, you know, to be able to show empathy for other people and, you know, the life that they're living. And it's just so lovely to meet these people and hear their experience, and we feel really, really lucky today. How long have you been living here?
Udah berapa lama tinggal di sini? 20 about 25 years.
Can you ask her what changes has she seen in 25 years?
No change at all.
But what about with the flooding and the land going down and more storm?
Oh yeah, always the same answer. Because of the dam out there provided by the government, today they're living much more comfortable than before because of the dam.
Okay, so when we're talking about the dam, we're talking about the actual seawall. So I just asked the lady here if she's worried about the wall and if something happens, because we noticed that there were a lot of cracks and holes in the wall, and you know, if she's concerned about if one day it breaks and this area floods. And we've been getting the same response from many of the residents in this area, is that it's destiny and they're all in it together. They support each other, they fix each other's houses when there's some problems, and they're not worrying about this. I mean, maybe deep inside there's some worry there, but in their everyday life they're not worrying because it's their destiny, and if something happens, it happens, and they will face it all together as a community. But I'm really surprised about people's positive attitude. One thing that I also noticed about the people as well is that they say that they were born here and they're going to die here. They don't want to move. They have such a strong attachment to their land and their culture here, and they don't want to move. So even if they have to move temporarily, most people have said they're coming back. They're going to come back and they're going to continue to live in their land.
Dek, ambil fotonya ibu, Dek.
Can I tell her she has the most beautiful smile?
Iya, itu senyumnya cantik katanya. Ambil fotonya. Siapa? Panggilannya ibu siapa? No Free. Her name is No Free.
No Free, is beautiful to meet you. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Can you give me one of these? Yeah.
This is some of the government provided accommodation here. Apparently it's just a small room. Some people have actually bought it and some others are renting it. The government built these apartment blocks to house the people from the village who have lost their houses due to flooding. But sadly there wasn't enough for all the other residents in this community that we just came from, so not everyone was able to live in the government accommodation. So of course the government housing here is much more protected against floods as it's a high rise. So it's a very small room. Wow.
Hello.
Looks like it's 6 levels of government housing here. Quite a vicious cycle. As people continue to pump water from underground aquifers to fill tanks like these, this problem is contributing to land subsidence, causing the whole city to sink.
So this area here is called Muara Baru, and ironically enough, it actually means new wetland. So maybe that's telling of what's to come in the future.
You can actually see that there's salt water flowing through this area. There are obviously mangroves here and they only grow around salt water. Check this out, you can see the mangrove roots here. We're heading to go on a boat now, and we just came across all these water tanks that are being distributed onto the different boats here in the harbour. We should get a good view of the seawall from the boat.
You can see the concrete wall behind me, which is the wall that the community that we just visited put their faith in, basically to prevent flooding of their homes. But you can also see how fragile that wall actually looks. And you can see there are mangroves growing next to it, so obviously it's going to be damage to that wall from roots and from wear and tear from flooding and storm surges. You're kind of getting the feeling that the concrete wall behind us has given the local communities a bit of a lifeline, but it's on borrowed time.
Just looking at these apartments behind us here, I can see a number of apartments actually have residents in them, but this block here is completely abandoned. They were built approximately 20 years ago, but with the stormwater surges, the land subsidence and the flooding, I don't think it's going to be very good for the property prices.
At the moment, about 40% of North Jakarta is located below sea level, but it is estimated that in just 25 years, 95% of North Jakarta will actually be underwater if nothing is done to solve the land subsidence issue. While land subsidence is the main contributor to the flooding issues here in Jakarta, sea level rise is another concern, of course, that contributes to this problem.
We are now on a fishing boat. We did not expect to be here, but yeah, it's really cool, so we're going to go explore a little bit. Many of the people that live along the northern coast of Jakarta rely on fishing as their main source of income. Due to the land subsidence and the sea level rising, many people have to move further away from the coast. Therefore, this affects their livelihood.
These fishing boats certainly have a very unique shape. It looks really cool the way these 4 fishing boats are just lined up here next to each other.
Oh, it's really cool exploring one of these old fishing boats. Did not expect to be doing that today.
You can just see the seawall stretching for kilometers, and straight behind it you can see all the settlements.
And what you will notice is that the top of the seawall is pretty much aligned with some of the rooftops, just indicating how low-lying some of those buildings behind the wall actually are. It's really scary to think about what would happen if a section of that seawall actually cracked during a storm surge. It would absolutely be devastating for those people living on the other side.
Aye, sailor, where are we off to? Yes, I'm on the Black Pearl right now. Some Pirates of the Caribbean quotes for you.
I think Ella thinks that she's Jack Sparrow.
I think this is the kitchen. It's actually a pretty big ship, to be honest. I think this might be the toilet. I was needing to go to the bathroom, but not anymore. At least it's kind of clean, because it just like washes straight into the ocean.
And when there's big waves, it just like splashes the bottom and cleans you. You don't even need toilet paper. It's great. It's a genius invention.
The wall was constructed in 2014, so it's surprisingly pretty new, but the wall looks like it's falling apart in many places.
Hello. Hi. Hello. 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 How are you? Hi. Hi.
We're currently searching for one of the approximately 75,000 groundwater pumps here in the city.
We've just gone down a small alleyway and the pump is down here.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I was expecting it to be harder.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so then the water just goes into the bucket. So the groundwater pump is 15 to 20 meters deep, and this supplies water for 4 to 5 families here. Just imagine how many groundwater pumps are actually needed to supply water for those 4 million people that do not have access to pipeline water. The water coming from that groundwater pump was not for drinking, it was for washing and also for wudu before prayer, and we smelt it and it didn't smell the best. It smelled kind of eggy, and our guide also said that when he's used the water it's quite greasy and oily. We have also seen a lot of small children with skin rashes all over their body, and this is because of the water and how contaminated it is from industry. So it is really sad to see this, and it's obviously a really large problem here in the city.
We've just come down to one of the small canals here in the northern part of the city. There's a beautiful street along the canal here. There's houses and small little shops. It's quite cute actually, very quaint. So just going down to take a look at the canal. It's quite neat along here actually. It's really nice along here with all the trees. Hello. Hello. Hello.
Just arrived at a well.
The well is actually about 20 meters deep, but the water down here in the well is probably no further down than about 3 meters, so you can lower the bucket and then pull it up.
There are actually chemicals in the water, and it changes the color of the bucket to go from obviously orange to like a black color. That's crazy. And it's sad because the people actually don't realize that they are washing themselves with this type of water.
Otherwise, the color will be. Lagi saja cuci muka dia.
Hey.
Bapak. Okay. Yeah. Public application, yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Ready? We dance together? Ready? Bye guys! Bye! Bye! So cute!
Behind me you can see the land subsidence monument, and what this shows is that from the top down to the bottom, which is a distance of 4.5 meters, it indicates how much North Jakarta has sunk since 1974 in this location. The Dutch took over the port town of Jakarta in the 16th century, and they built a grid of canals. Those canals were to some extent used to segregate the ethnic groups in Jakarta. The canals deteriorated in the 17th century due to poor maintenance and sedimentation issues, and that caused the water to be stagnant and disease-ridden. Therefore, the Dutch moved to the south of Jakarta, where they developed new areas, and in the 1870s they installed piped water supplies in those areas. But the areas in North Jakarta remained poorly developed. After the independence of Indonesia in 1945, Jakarta's population grew very rapidly from 1 million to 12 million people today. The rapid growth of Jakarta resulted in poor urban development and limited piped water supplies, especially in the poorer areas. Old Batavia is a really nice spot. So there's a canal running through, and you can still see a lot of the historic buildings dating back to the Dutch colonization.
We've just come one street over from the canal and we have entered this beautiful square. It is called Batavia Square. The square is surrounded by Dutch colonial buildings, and there is a large history museum which looks so beautiful. There's live music playing, and there are also bikes that you can rent and drive around the square. It's so cute here.
There's certainly a lot of students out and about today stopping you, wanting to practice their English, ask you questions, so certainly getting a lot of chats with the locals. We are at Merdeka Square, and you can see in the background the national monument that symbolizes the independence of Indonesia dating back to August 1945. Surrounding Merdeka Square, where the national monument is located, you will find lots of government buildings. All those government buildings, they'll be relocated to the new capital, Nusantara.
While the relocation of the capital is both politically motivated and due to the reduced livability and over-congestion of Jakarta, the frequent flooding and the sinking of the city is one of the main contributors to the relocation of the capital.
We just made it up the top of the observation deck. It certainly is a nice view from up here. Definitely makes you realize how many skyscrapers there actually are here in Jakarta. Today it's a bit hazy, so you can't see that far, but you still get a good appreciation about how massive this city actually is. You can see the Istiqlal Mosque really clearly, and you can see all the government buildings surrounding the Merdeka Square. The only way of stopping North Jakarta from sinking is to install piped water supplies to everyone here in the city, including all the informal settlements. So the question is it too late to save North Jakarta? Is the damage already done with more than 40% of North Jakarta located below sea level? Even if the sinking of North Jakarta stopped, will sea level rise and the increasing number of extreme weather events due to climate change make North Jakarta uninhabitable? Well, I guess time will tell.
Despite the challenges the residents of Jakarta are facing, we felt an overwhelming sense of hope, positivity and community spirit amongst the local residents we spoke to. We really hope that the government will put in place mechanisms to protect these residents who are currently facing a very uncertain future.